Post your location and local time below. Then he steps out of that cab, 2 streets over, rolls the suitcase like he's sneaking past a sleeping dragon. And there she is on his porch, Victoria Hale, lounging in his chair in a silk robe that shouldn't be familiar, but is his late wife's robe, burgundy in the bruised evening light, a glass of red, held like she's hosting a wine club for pirates. And he thinks, great, he pays the mortgage, and apparently the cover charge too. So he lifts the phone, hits record, and lets the rain tap the rhythm section, because even storms love a good entrance. 3 guests laugh on cue. One guy barefoot on his ottoman, as if shoes are optional, but audacity is mandatory. And the Macallan he saved for a good day sits half empty, which technically makes this a bad day with excellent taste in whiskey. And historians still argue whether the first HOA began in ancient Rome or the first cul-de-sac. But tonight, it feels like it began on this porch with this robe and this grin. She flashes the one that finds mailboxes and dignity at the same rate. He stands 20 feet out. Steady, not heroic, just properly caffeinated and emotionally taxed. Remembering how the first week in Willow Creek smelled like cut grass and new keys until her clipboard arrived, like a process server with lipstick forest green colonial mailbox, or else he swapped it in, not because she's right, but because bandwidth is finite, like fries in a shared basket. And then came the rule he hates in bold italics: leave for 2 weeks, surrender an emergency key, which sounds neighborly until a neighbor treats emergency like brunch. So he sealed the envelope, dropped the key, and wrapped the house in digital steel anyway. Cameras, sensors, logs, so nerdy. Even the fridge keeps a diary. And yes, the smart toilet tracks usage, which is awkward at parties but fabulous in court. Tokyo hums months later, neon noodles and meetings that start at tomorrow and end yesterday when the first ping lands thermostat slides from away to cozy at 2:16 a.m., which his HVAC appreciates and his trust does not second ping. Fridge gains milk. Greek yogurt and a Chardonnay cheap enough to qualify as a prank. He doesn't drink milk unless it's disguised as ice cream. Third ping, 3 hours of Real Housewives, and he doesn't judge. Okay, he judges lightly. Not the point. He tunnels home, pulls feeds, and there, she sits on his couch under his cashmere throw like a cat that pays dues. Peter beside her doing channel surfing cardio, and the patio shows another couple clinking glasses, which is adorable if it weren't felony flavored. He doesn't call the cops yet. He builds the case like a chessboard. Pieces, clicking schedules, mapped, power spikes, matched to light scenes. Mike in the office catches her bragging to Marge about his itinerary. Never brag to Marge. Peter, whisper panics, she purrs. He won't be back until the 1st. And that's when the night moves. Flight change to May 15th. Email decoy says June 7th. Traps reset backups in triplicate, and a quirky tidbit floats through his mind that Romans had a goddess of door hinges named Cardia, which feels relevant because tonight the hinge is fate itself and rain starts soft. He rounds the oak phone recording low and patient, while she leans forward with that small, conquering smile, and he steps onto his own gravel like a documentary narrator who forgot to whisper because the quiet ends now. He doesn't raise his voice. He raises evidence, which is funnier at parties and lethal on porches. So when she declares he's trespassing on her property, he just nods like a patient librarian and invites the moment to alphabetize itself. She dials 911 with the confidence of someone whose clipboard has Wi-Fi. Claims he's dangerous and carrying a suitcase, which is true. The danger is mostly paperwork, and he answers only with the steady kind of silence that makes bluffing itch rain stippling the steps. Macallan breathing guilt from the table like a witness with a cork. Sirens bloom at the end of the block, red and blue painting her borrowed robe. Officer Reed moves quick. Sergeant Harris moves careful, and the air smells like wet cedar and someone else's certainty. Harris asks for ID. He asks permission to reach hands visible, calm because manners travel faster than gossip. And when the address on the license lines up with the mailbox, she once uniformed, her smile twitches like a cheap app buffering. He takes 2 more steps and taps the glass panel. The lock chirps, the deadbolt slides, and that soft click does what speeches can't. It moves the goalposts back to reality. Historians still argue whether the first modern police force started with London's Bow Street Runners or the Metropolitan Police, but tonight, law and order begins with a thumbprint and a porch light. He mentions he can account for every hour of occupancy down to the yogurt, which earns Reed a visible huh, and right then, the black sedan goes to the curb. Daniel Brooks exits like a closing argument with shoes, briefcase clicks open, tablet wakes, and the patio becomes courtroomish. Exhibit A, her own voice, he won't. I have his itinerary. We'll be out by the 31st. Harris's eyes go flat. Professional. Reed's jaw tightens. And somewhere a wine glass decides not to clink tiny joke. Big silence. Then Daniel scrolls kitchen cam couch. Cam patio cam. May 10th. McAllen levels fall so fast the bottle would file a missing persons report if it had thumbs. Peter appears in the doorway, pale as printer paper, apologizes in stereo, confesses attendant snacks, programming choices, 3 hours of Real Housewives. He has notes, and the robe's owner, who is not Victoria, hangs like a ghost. No one invited. He doesn't gloat. The footage does that for him. Another clip rolls her in the closet. Laura's blue scarf looped like victory. His breath goes shallow but steady. Humor steps aside, reverence steps in, and Harris nods once. A small thank you for composure that makes the job simpler. A quirky tidbit crosses his mind. Ancient Rome kept sacred geese at the Capitoline as living alarms, proof that home security has always been part feathers, part nerve. And the thought lands right as metal answers metal. Cuffs ratchet. Victoria tries one last incantation about authority jurisdiction, emergency inspections with an overnight bag, but authority tonight is a rectangle of glass that plays her own voice back to her neighbor. Curtains flutter, a lawn sprinkler hisses on schedule, like it refuses to reschedule drama, and somewhere a smart toilet log patiently waits to testify about guest usage patterns, which is a sentence no philosopher ever prepared for. Reed guides her down. Harris promises to collect the full archive. Daniel slips the tablet away like a magician, returning a dove. And he stands there under the porch light's halo. Rain stitching the driveway. Feeling relief arrive on tiptoe. Not a parade, just a quiet usher, showing him back to his seat. Historians still argue whether justice should look like scales or a sword. Tonight it looks like a porch, a fingerprint, and a neighborhood finally blinking awake. He photographs the wine ring and the casserole dish that definitely didn't come with the closing logs, bottle weights like a bartender with a calculator, and Daniel reminds him to breathe because airtight cases don't inhale themselves. They move room to room, laughter pocketed so timestamps can speak the smart toilet, which, yes, is the surprise paralegal of this saga, quietly corroborates the guest schedule and a quirky tidbit drifts in the sweet smell of rain. Petrichor comes from soil bacteria getting excited, which is oddly how his evidence behaves. Alive, specific, and very ready to testify. He photographs the closet, too. Pauses where Laura's scarf should hang, lets the ache pass like a cloud, then notes it cleanly because feelings can ride shotgun, but facts drive. Arraignment arrives on a drizzle-lit Thursday. Cameras blink, and he stands easy while the charges queue like shopping carts. Trespass, burglary, theft, fraud. Her plea floats. Not guilty with the confidence of a mall kiosk lotion, and Daniel replies with receipts that do not moisturize itinerary audio. Pantry logs the still of the scarf looped like a headline. Peter's testimony that sounds like someone finally reading the instructions, and the McAllen graph that if it were a stock would require a trading halt. The defense tries safeguarding best interest and community standards, which plays about as well as karaoke without the backing track. Historians still argue whether law is more theater or architecture. Today, it's both a stage lit by data inside walls that do not move. By summer, the verdict lands guilty on all counts and restitution plus a 5-year ban sent her clipboard into early retirement. The board meets under fluorescent honesty, elects George without speeches, and repeals the emergency key bylaw so hard the minutes flinch, replacing it with consent. Only entry and a line about Cardia-level respect for hinges, which makes exactly 3 people chuckle and 1 person Google Cardia. He signs the civil papers settlement tidy as a folded napkin, watches the silver Mercedes leave Willow Creek like a bad password finally deleted, and his nights return to gentle fridge hum, oak leaves ticking the roof, 2 ducks patrolling like budget geese. He pours a fresh bottle, toasts the quiet, the geese, the hinge goddess, and the patient archive that turned chaos into closing arguments. Then he sits, breath long and steady, and lets the porch lamp learn what peace looks like. The rain thins to a hush, and he stays where the porch meets the spill of lamplight, listening to the heartbeat of his home, the low refrigerator hum, the whisper of the return vent, the leaf-to-roof tick. Becoming a lullaby he recognizes, and he lets his shoulders settle. Not suddenly, just gradually, like a book closing on the last page. He looks across the room and notices ordinary things. Frames, straightened cushions, eased back a blanket folded. The way he prefers the coffee machine, quiet and ready. And it occurs to him that recovery is rarely a single sound. It is a collection of gentle noises agreeing to be kind again. The neighborhood holds still as if cued curtain drifting shut. Garage light blinking off a dog deciding there is nothing urgent to announce, and the air smells faintly of cedar and wet pavement, and the earthy note the soil gives when satisfied, and he breathes until his breath matches the room. When he finally stands, it is not to patrol or to prove, it is simply to turn the lock once and hear the bolt slide, a ceremony that says the hinge goddess can rest. Now the archive can sleep. The house accepts him as present and undisturbed. He walks the hall without turning on more lights. Familiarity is a glow that remembers where the doors are. He pauses at the doorway that holds the most memory, thanks what has been held and returned, and closes it with care. Outside, the last drops loosen from the gutter. Inside, a timer clicks. The night keeps its promise, and he understands that quiet is not the absence of sound, but the presence of safety. And he lets that presence gather around him, steady as a hand on his shoulder, patient as morning waiting beyond glass. Morning.